Have you ever wondered where medical breakthroughs come from?
It's not your doctor's office. Instead, most medical advancements originate in a biomedical laboratory. Thousands of scientists working in labs all over the world are racing to develop better understanding of how the human body works, enabling the development of new drugs, new therapies, or vaccines that can treat or even prevent disease, helping humans and other animals to live better, longer lives.
Hi, I'm Kendrick, and I'm Keith.
Come with us as we venture into a real laboratory and find out what is biomedical research.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Kevin Osteen. I'm a PhD in reproductive endocrinology.
And I'm Kaylin Bruner-Tran. I have a PhD in reproductive pathology. And Kevin and I have worked together for about 20 years.
Endometriosis has been one of the diseases that we have studied for maybe more than 20 years.
And so my laboratory, which is across the hall, so we're in Kevin's office, and my laboratory, we're more interested in pregnancy. And women with endometriosis oftentimes have difficulty becoming pregnant. And so that's why we collaborate. So he's the endocrinologist and I'm the pathologist.
Yeah, and so when we started this program, we really were trying to start an in vitro fertilization program. So when we started that program, we found that many of the women who were showing up in our clinic had endometriosis, but very little was known about the reproductive tract of women who had endometriosis.
So we're also interested in reproductive toxicology and how environmental exposures might lead to the development of diseases such as endometriosis or a difficulty in becoming pregnant or maintaining your pregnancy. And so that's really the focus of our joint laboratories is understanding how environmental exposures impact the reproductive tract. And so right now we have a lot of volunteers that are working in our lab. Most of them are either in medical school or want to go to medical school. And what I'm hoping that they get out of the experience of coming and working is that you can have this interest in biology and physiology, and there's a lot more to do than just go to med school. Going to medical school is great. We need physicians, but we also need more scientists, more biomedical scientists. And so if you have an interest in biology and how the human body works, you should really consider biomedical research as a career. Because what we're trying to do is understand why people get sick and what can we do to keep them from getting sick, or if they are sick, can we do something to get them healthier? Where does drug discovery occur? It occurs in a research lab.
So I'm Juan Neco. I'm a recent PhD graduate. I come from Colombia, South America. That's where I was born until the age of 9. Then I moved to the US, to New Jersey, and have lived there for the rest of my life. I'm 29 years old, so I've been there around 15 years, and the last 5 years I've been here in Nashville, Tennessee.
So, what got you interested in getting your graduate at Vanderbilt?
So originally I was a pre-med student, and then I went through a series of courses where they got me more involved in medical research or just basically just regular biology. And it was fascinating to just really make that concept of really getting into the lab and transitioning to that aspect. So that's really what triggered this cascade to looking for graduate school programs specifically to get my PhD.
So what is your research question?
So for my project specifically is to use biomedical research or biomedical engineering to develop a model to create that models disease. So specifically we're looking at a disease called endometriosis, which causes a lot of pain and infertility in certain women. So what we were trying to develop is a model where we can begin to test why this occurs, why this disease occurs, and eventually how we can develop drugs or therapeutics to alleviate this problem. Eventually a cure for this disease for many of many of these women suffer through.
So what motivates you to get up every day and come and do this job?
Right. So what drives me every day? Just the excitement of taking pictures and playing around with things and finding something new that hasn't been discovered before. That's really what gets you through the day. At the end of the time that I was here, you recognize, so it was a lot of work, but it was for sure worth it.
So when you come into your lab, what's the first thing that you're going to do? What's the first machine that you turn on or write down?
Well, I think, of course, like the first thing I will do is go get a cup of coffee just to wake up. But then the second thing will obviously be the computer. I'll check my emails to see what's on the docket for the day. In terms of machinery itself, the incubator. I pretty much have lived in the incubator for the last 5 years, and it's always fun to check out your little cells to see how they're growing and stuff like that. I mean, from there it depends on what experiments you're running and stuff like that. But in that scale, I would say coffee, computer, and then the incubator.
Hi, my name is Shilpa, and I'm a fourth-year medical student at Vanderbilt. And I've been working in this lab for the past year. So I'm hoping to go into obstetrics and gynecology, which is basically women's health, so delivering babies and taking care of women really throughout their entire lives. But when I was a third-year medical student, I found that there were a lot of questions about the kind of care that we give to women in pregnancy that were unanswered. And so that's why I knew that research was something that I wanted to pursue, because I was really interested in understanding the why behind a lot of the different treatments that we have and behind a lot of the diseases that we see in women. And so I looked up online the different researchers at Vanderbilt who do research on women's health, and that's how I got introduced to Dr. Bruner Tran. So I ended up taking a year out of my training in medical school to work full-time in this lab. And my goal was really to develop some skills that will help me be a good researcher in the future. And then how to organize data and present it so that the general public can really understand what the findings are and how it's relevant for clinical practice. Because I think that's where a lot of our drugs come from. It's a lot of where we're able to cure diseases. And I think without this kind of work, medicine would not be as advanced as it is now. So it's an opportunity that I really encourage everyone to seek out, because you can learn so much in the process.
Hi, this is Tianbing Ding. I'm a research assistant professor at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. I'm original from China. I got my education up to doctor degree at China.
Is it harder to get into college in China than it is the US?
Yes, actually the most competitive step is not start from the undergraduate. Actually, it's start from the high school, because if you want to get into college, you have to went to a good high school first, and only the good students can really take the test for the magnet high school. The others went to the normal high school, but they have a pretty relative low accepted rate for the college. They are not as good the magnet school. You have to be the top student to get enrolled into the biological science. Even it's you have to have a higher score than the medical students.
What would you say to someone thinking about going into research, and why did you become a scientist?
If you want to pursue some career, first and the most, you have to have interest on that career. Both of my parents, they are kind of scientists, and they have been working together after they graduated from the college.
What did your parents do?
They are working on the agricultural field, and they have definitely they have lots of field trip. Yeah, so that's all my childhood. I go with them. I play on the side of the field, and they working inside the field. So that's why I decided to study the biological science.
My name's Dylan. I'm a volunteer at the Women's Reproductive Health Research Center here at Vanderbilt. What I do is I do a lot of grunt work for the lab. So I basically do anything that needs to be done around, and I'm interested in eventually owning my own lab and devoting it towards autism research.
So what got you interested in volunteering here?
Well, actually, Miss Bruner Tran, she came and talked at my school, and I'd already been interested in doing research, so it just felt natural to go and volunteer so I could get some basic skills down.
My name's Mariah Chambers. I'm a second-year medical student at Meharry Medical College. I'm here working with Dr. Bruner Tran in her research department for the summer, just doing some summer research before I start the school year back. After medical school, I plan on specializing in OB-GYN, so that's why I'm here in the OB-GYN department doing some research. So a lot of medical students are now required to do some type of research portion during their time in medical school. That's what I'm doing here for the summer. And some medical schools will have like research rotations where you go somewhere for a couple of months and you learn a lot of lab technique that you may want to use in the future if you decide to go into research, because a lot of MDs do research while they practice. So I'm just here learning a lot from Dr. Bruner Tran and the other people who are in the lab, and I'm excited to continue working.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Greer. I am a teacher at Ravenwood High School. I teach biology and biomedical science there. I have come in this summer as a volunteer researcher. One of the most fascinating projects that I got to help with was the mouse necropsies. This is where we performed necropsies of baby mice and adult mice to learn more about what was going on in their insides. We did a necropsy on an adult GFP mouse. GFP is the green fluorescent protein that jellyfish produce, and the mice that we worked with are descendants of mice that have been genetically engineered so that they produce the GFP. So they have jellyfish DNA and mice DNA, and what you can see is different tissues in the mouse will glow under black light. When we did necropsies on the adult mice, their little paws and ears and the lining, their peritoneum and their eyes glowed green under a black light, and so that was really fascinating. The whole reason why we use the GFP mice in Dr. Bruner Tran's lab is to learn more about which parent mouse is contributing to the placenta, because they're working on a placenta project to learn more about the human diseases and reasons for infertility. And so I think it's incredible that we were able to learn from this mouse model, and hopefully we can use that to help treat humans in the future. So another component of this experiment, I was able to help Sherry and Tinbing. I observed them working with human placenta. The placenta were donated from women that had just given birth and had a C-section. They isolated different cell types, and so the purpose of their project is to learn more about the human diseases and how the placenta develops. And so we're hoping that the science that we were doing, or the projects that we were doing with the mice, are relevant to what we're learning with the human placenta that we're receiving and exploring. I'm very grateful that I had this experience. I'm so thankful that I was able to learn so many skills and techniques that I can take back to my students that are pursuing a biomedical future. I'm forever thankful that I was able to learn more about reproductive health in human and mice too.
My name is Dr. Jean Wallace. I'm a doctor of veterinary medicine, and I am the vice president for animal care at Vanderbilt University Medical Center and attending veterinarian for Vanderbilt University.
So scientists primarily, I guess they always are using animals, and why does that have to be done? Why can't we just skip the animals?
Right. Well, unfortunately, there's no alternative that truly replicates the human physiology. We can use cell cultures to look at specific areas of interest in research. We can look at computer models that kind of help us predict what an outcome might be in a research project, but there's still no getting around the need for a living being that can show us all of the interactions of the body that are taking place at the same time. People often ask me and others who work here in providing the care of animals why we do what we do. The reason we're here, it's certainly true for me, and when I ask my colleagues, they say the same thing, are really primarily for two reasons. One, we love animals, we care about their welfare, and we are dedicated to ensuring that the animals that are used here in research and teaching are treated humanely. And two, we truly believe that there's no way that these discoveries could be made without the use of animals in research. We all look to minimize our use of animals, and ultimately in a perfect world maybe we'll get to that point, but we just aren't there yet. And for that reason it's really important that I and the other veterinarians that work here are here, and that we are able to continue to do research that will allow us to learn new things that will prolong life and improve the lives of again, people and animals.
We have spent a couple weeks at Vanderbilt talking to people researching obstetrics and gynecology. Now, we have been invited to attend a medical research conference in Florida, where we hope to meet people from all over the world. We've made it to Tampa and are now on our way to the Teratology Society.
Hi, I'm Dana Shuey. I'm the Vice President of the Teratology Society, and what the Teratology Society is a scientific organization of people involved in the study of birth defects. So teratology is basically the study of birth defects.
The purpose of a scientific meeting is to allow scientists from all over the world to come together and present and discuss their research. Many studies are presented as posters, while selected scientists are asked to speak in an oral session. Here, Shama Bhatia presents her research using the poster format.
So we met you in the lab at Vanderbilt, and now you're here at the Teratology Society. Have you learned anything?
Yeah, I've met a lot of people from all over the country, and so it's really cool to see how people are working on similar problems, what kinds of methods they use, and even just their backgrounds and where they come from in life.
Did you present your work here?
I did. I presented yesterday morning, and it was really fun.
What was it about?
So I presented my research that I showed you in the lab. We were looking at baby mice and looking at a disease that develops in babies called necrotizing enterocolitis. And so I was showing them my findings from that study.
Hi, my name is Chad Bird. I'm a second-year osteopathic medical student at the Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine in Blacksburg, Virginia.
What is your research and what's your end goal?
So I do research with quaternary ammonium compounds. I was specifically looking at the effect of quaternary ammonium compounds on inflammation in fetal mice brains. So we wanted to see how, we call them quats, we wanted to see how quats affect inflammation, because quats have been linked to different neurological disorders, and so we wanted to figure out why they're linked. Because inflammation is also linked to neurological disorders, so we try to make a connection here.
My name is Kembra Howdishell. and I work at the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences.
What is your research and what is the end goal?
So I'll tell you a little bit about what I have researched. I'm no longer working at the bench, so I'm no longer working in the laboratory. The kind of things that I do now are literature evaluations, where we focus on a chemical for which we know that there's environmental exposure to humans, and we research what kind of adverse health outcomes there might be happening. And I've also studied phthalates, which are chemicals that are put into plastic and paints and things that help with the application of products, and they are known to impact male reproduction by lowering testosterone levels. And that
All right, I'm Ben Lovely from the University of Louisville, assistant professor at the School of Medicine in the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Genetics.
So what's your research project and your end goal of that?
My research focuses on understanding gene-environment interactions, specifically gene by ethanol interactions, and how these interactions screw up cell behaviors that underlie development of the fetus. And so we use zebrafish to model human development because we can do everything in a fish right in a petri dish real quick and easy, and we can directly relate that to humans. And so how do these gene-ethanol interactions disrupt facial development's the end goal. And so can we identify ethanol susceptibility genes, so genes that make you susceptible to ethanol? And can we then figure out ways to therapeutically treat ethanol exposure in children?
Okay.
Hi, I'm Josh Robinson. I'm an assistant professor at the University of California, San Francisco.
So what is your research and your end goal of your research? What problem are you trying to solve?
Cool. My primary research goal is to understand how environmental chemicals affect pregnancy, with a long-term goal of trying to identify the mechanisms that chemicals affect pregnancy and their role with birth defects.
What's up, Internet, YouTube? I'm Hao Chen. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of California, San Francisco. And so my research is primarily looking at, I'm primarily trained as a developmental toxicologist, so we're seeing how environmental chemicals can affect development. And my research currently is involved looking at how environmental chemicals can affect placental development, specifically how a certain population of placental cells that invade into the uterine wall, how they might be affected by environmental chemicals.
So my name is Jane Stewart, and I come from Scotland, and I work as an independent consultant helping pharmaceutical companies design, interpret and understand their animal work regards the safety of their drugs for pregnant women and for women who are breastfeeding.
When you were in high school, is this what you thought you would be doing?
No, not at all. I didn't really think I would be doing something with science.
When you were 16, did you think you were going to go down the path you did?
No. I didn't know anything about this field when I was 16. Wanted to be a veterinarian at the time.
the quick answer is no, but I knew that I was super excited about science.
In high school, no, I had no idea what I was going to be doing. When I went to University of Louisville as an undergrad, I worked in a microbiology lab. Worked on a single-celled fungus that you can actually eat. It's called Weyla corn smut. It's good. I would eat it, try it. It's really good on tacos and steak. How does a single cell know what it's doing at any point in time? We have a brain and we have a hard time figuring out what we're doing half the time. How does a single cell do that? So I got into it in college, from high school into college, and just decided I really wanted to study biology. A lot of my friends were pre-med, went to med school, which is great, but what drove them was to help people. My question was to understand biology. And so in understanding biology, I feel like I'm helping understand human health in a very similar way to what MDs do, but in a different way, in that I'm understanding how biology works, so we can then give that information to the MDs to understand how to treat diseases. So, good?
Yeah.
Definitely not. In high school, at the age of 16, I think I wanted to be half lawyer and half javelin thrower. I was really into doing track and field and throwing the javelin as far as I could.
When I was in high school, I wanted to be in a punk band and I wanted to do covers every single day, and that didn't happen. So I don't know. I think it's normal not to know what you want to do, and I think it's normal to change a lot of things. You just have to think about what you find interesting and just keep doing what you like doing, and you'll find something.
Alright guys, so that was two teenagers shot at trying to make an educational video. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We know that you probably had to watch this because your teachers made you to, but thanks for bearing with us.